I want to talk to you about something that happened to me not more than 4 weeks ago, from the date of making this video. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot to me, and it was kind of proof to me that wonderful, beautiful moments can happen in life, especially when you least expect it. Those of you who are maybe a little more spiritually inclined or more open to the things in this world, this universe, that we can't necessarily see or brought up to think aren't there, well, maybe those people will kind of understand this little story. But I hope if you're listening you can get something out of it. So to put it in context, I've always been quite open to the idea of energy. All life is energy. We're all interchanging energy all the time. Positive thought, negative thought, I think impacts us and every living thing on this planet. I think energy connects us. You know, you can walk into a room and no one's speaking, but you can sense a tense atmosphere. Or you can walk into a room, still no one's speaking, but there's no tension in the atmosphere, it feels light. It's energy. And we're picking up on it, whether we realise it or not. Now, I grew up with this idea from a young age, and I also grew up with the thought of people who do healing and faith healing, or any kind of healing. You know, whether it's the Chinese, acupuncture, Reiki, etc. I think it's all got a basis in communicating this energy, sending this energy out from yourself. So I grew up in my teens and 20s, now and then I'd do some healing on my mum or a girlfriend, and found it actually worked in not just relaxing them greatly, but taking away aches and pains. And I found I could do this time and time again. So I had this confidence that something was there, something was working. So that kind of puts it in the context, this little story. So, I have a cat called Blue. He's a neurotic little guy, but I love him. What he loves to do is hunt. He loves to bring me little presents. Mice, birds. Now, those of you, especially those of you who've had cats or have a cat which hunt, you know what birds are like when they're caught. Usually they're mangled up, they start going into shock, and they die really quickly. Especially being handled by a cat and then by yourself when you retrieve it from your cat. There's too much for them. The shock just kills them. You know how they look, their heads go to one side, the beak's open, breathing laboured, and not long after that they usually check out. So, unfortunately, I don't like seeing any living thing suffer, and when I see a bird or a mouse mangled, looks like it's on the way out, you know, you do what you have to do, put it out of its misery quickly, and it hurts. I hate doing that. Well, there's this one time, not too long ago, my cat comes in with a present for me in the morning. This little blue tit. I managed to get it out of his mouth before he ran out the cat flap again. And this thing, I slowly picked it up and put it on some kitchen toweling. And it looked on the way out. Its head was to one side, its eyes started closing, breathing laboured. And I started to think, oh, it's not another one I've got to put out of its misery. I hate doing it. It's awful. And I was really struggling with myself. And something kind of kept stopping me. I was really undecided. So this thing was lying there, not doing too well, seems to be going into more and more shock. I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, while I'm thinking about it, for the first time, I just thought of sending it some healing energy. So that's what I did. And I practiced Reiki Healing because I find it's a good system of ordering positive healing energy. So for about a minute I sent it healing energy through Reiki, just cupping my hands close to it. And after I did that, I don't know what I was expecting, because I just wanted to communicate compassion and warmth to this beautiful little bird that looked like it was dying. Anyway, I was so undecided still, so I walked into my PC room, my study, and I took the little bird with me, put it down next to my PC monitor, and I started mailing my girlfriend, because I just didn't know what to do, and she's an animal lover. So I sent her a mail, what do I do? Do I kill it, don't I? Don't want it to suffer. And as I sent the mail, I just sat back and tried to ponder it. And as I was sitting there, this little bird, his head started to twitch. His eyes opened just a little bit. And I carried on, pondering and worrying, checking for a response on the email. But as the minutes went by, this little bird became a little bit more animated, started to pull out of its shock. Its eyes started to open wide, its breathing not so laboured, its beak started to close, and he started jerking his head around, getting more and more alert all the time. And then I just sat still and watched it out the corner of my eye. And then as the seconds went by, this little bird actually got up, seemed to be pulling right out of the shock, and it sat there. And get this, it looked at me, just spent a few seconds just looking at me, head, twitching to one side and the other. And then it hopped onto my keyboard, took another couple of hops towards me, stopped, looked at me again. This is like not 6 inches from me, and then flew up onto my shoulder. And he hopped from one side of my shoulder to another and just sat there. How amazing is that? I mean, this wild bird, scared of us big living things, that wild fear, it didn't seem to have any. It just got up, hopped towards me, hopped onto my shoulder, back one side of my shoulder to another, and sat there. And then he tried to fly off, and I was in my study and he couldn't find his way out, so I managed to carefully retrieve him again and walked outside, opened my hand up, and he was sitting there, and then he flew off, strong as anything, straight off. Now this really touched me. Now I don't know if the Reiki healing did anything. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I certainly wasn't expecting to have a miraculous recovery. But maybe it was going to come round anyway. But the fact of it was that the little bird, this wild animal, got up, looked at me, and hopped onto my shoulder. And for about 30 seconds, just hopping from one side to the other and stopping and looking round. Now that really moved me. Something, I believe, happened there. Some sort of communication of energy, of warmth, of something that I believe permeates us all and everything in nature. And that vindicated, in a way, so much of what I believe, so much of what I feel, and it was amazing. Now make of that what you will. But for me, it's like the way I am as a person, the way I try to show positivity and warmth and love, expressing it, it's kind of like that moment was the universe saying, yeah, you're doing good. And just this one amazing, out of the blue experience really affected me quite deeply. So friends, if you ever wonder whether you're doing the right thing, whether what you give out isn't rewarded, never give up hope, never lose heart, because you're never wrong when you're doing that. Take care.